Well, good morning, Quest Church. My name is Aaron Laramore. I'm the youth pastor here, and you're joining us in week 2 of a series called Presents. And so I don't know if you realize this or not, but it's Christmas time, and there's a lot of talk about gifts or presents, right? Presents with a T. Anybody got all their Christmas shopping done already? Anybody? Overachievers. Okay, so, actually my wife yesterday, she got off of work and rushed out to try to get some Christmas shopping done, and she got home real late yesterday. She walks in the door, and she's got her arms out like this, right? There's just bags, like, hanging from her arms. And she's like, baby, I think we got it almost all done. I said, I think we need less friends is what's going on here, right? Nothing wrong with presents, man. Nothing wrong with presents. I love to give presents. I love to, get presents. I'm just going to throw that out there. If you're going down your list, don't forget to support your local youth pastor, okay? It's tough, man. Struggle is real, so just throwing that out there. But you know, and I know, man, it's Christmas time, and there's so much more to celebrating Christmas than just, celebrating presents with a T, but actually we're celebrating God here with us. In other words, we're celebrating God's presence, right, with a C, God's presence. And so what we've been doing in this series is kind of walking through and discovering the powerful impact that has on our lives, the powerful impact of God's presence here on earth, here with us, and the impact that has on our lives. And the way that we're kind of doing that is we're walking through 4 different names that were given to Jesus. And these 4 names really reveal to us Jesus' true identity and his characteristics. These 4 names come from a prophecy from the prophet Isaiah. And basically he was foretelling of this king that is to come, this Savior that is to be born. And in his prophecy, he gives us some descriptive names. And so this is kind of the foundation scripture that we've been looking at through this series. So let me show it to you real quick. It's in Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6. Isaiah tells us that a child is born to us, a son is given to us, and the government will rest on his shoulders. In other words, all authority is going to be given to this new king. And he will be called, here's our names, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. And so last week, if you weren't here, I want to encourage you to watch that message online. But last week, Pastor Jim walked us through the presence of the Wonderful Counselor in our lives and how sometimes we need to reach out and make an appointment with the Wonderful Counselor. And when we do that, because he is the Wonderful Counselor, we experience counsel and guidance that we just can't get anywhere else. And so kind of carrying on with that same theme, man, today we're going to look at reaching out and experiencing the presence of Jesus as mighty God and the impact that has on our lives. And so, when you think of mighty God and Jesus as mighty God, and you think of that word mighty, I don't really know what comes to your mind, but man, if you're like me, I think of mighty, I think of power, and I think of strength and all those things. And, I think that if you're, human, then you've had situations in life where you could have used a little extra strength, right? You could have used a little extra might. I was thinking about that, and I actually thought about this time in my life that was pretty recent when, man, I really could have used some extra strength, not only for my benefit, but actually for the benefit of somebody I was trying to help out. And so this was several weeks ago. Several weeks ago, I was at the gym, and those people that walk into the gym, and it's like as soon as they walk in, like you immediately feel worse about yourself, Like they walk in, and it's like it's clear they're getting more out of their time there than you are, right? So this girl walks in, and I'm just kidding. Big guy, man, big guy. Don't judge me. Big guy, man. He's all hulked out and everything, and so I'm thinking like, okay, if I just stay over here by the little weights, maybe he won't recognize me and mistake me for like a protein bar or something. And so I'm over there, and I'm doing my thing. I'm at the end of my workout, and it was one of those where it's like, man, it was good, right? I had like the good music in the headphones. I'm at the end of the workout, things are good, but I'm at the end of the workout, right? And so I'm exhausted, man. I'm worn out, like I just feel like a noodle, like I got ran over by a truck. I'm done. I'm ready to get out of there. And so I'm leaving, but the kind of the pathway that I have to walk to leave the gym, I got to walk right in front of the bench press where this guy is doing bench press, right? And so I'm walking by, and I'm kind of like walking like way around, right? Because I'm like, he might try to pick me up or something and lift me. So I'm walking like way around, and I get by him, and he taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and he's like, he takes his headphones, he's like, hey, bro. I'm like, sup, bro? And because you bro out when you're at the gym, don't you, right? So I'm like, what's up, bro? And he's like, bro, can you spot me real quick? In my head, I'm like, no, like, I really can't, but what would Jesus do? I'm like, okay, let's go, And so I walk over there, and we get to the bench press thing. And homeboy's got so much weight loaded on this thing that, like, I'm pretty sure I could hear the bar crying, right? Like, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's just like, where did you even get all these? Like, and I'm just sitting there looking at that, and seriously, no joke, in my head, I start to pray, and I'm like, God, I'm going to need a mighty God moment right now. Like, not just for me, but, like, this boy's life's at stake, okay? Like, you're going to need to show up, and I'm going to need some extra strength. Like, are you seeing what I'm seeing, right? Like, this is not going to end well. And he says, okay, we're going to go on 3, okay? 1, and I'm like, whoa. And I'm like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, right? And I'm like, God, I took that out of context, but here's the context, right? And so he says 2, and I'm like, Jesus, take the bar, man. And mixing Carrie Underwood and the Apostle Paul, you know, it's real. And right before he gets to 3, the little bell rings to the front door of the gym, and this guy walks in who's like bigger than this guy, okay, big guy, walks in. And what was interesting, these guys know each other. They're like friends. I guess they're like, you know, from the same tribe or something. And so they came off the same mothership, and they know each other. And the guy that I was trying to spot, man, very nicely, very politely, he kind of gets up and he kind of, you know, puts his paw on my shoulder, and he's like, hey, don't worry about it. He's got it, right? And I'm like, yeah, you have no idea, man. Like, you just, right? And I left, right? So, man, and in that moment, right, like, all I could think about is like, God, you got to do something here. Like, I need a little bit of extra strength. And here's the thing, and I share that story really just because, man, let's have some fun at church, right? You can have fun at church. And so I share that story with you, though, because, man, I think this Christmas season, and as we go through this series and we think about the presence of God in our lives and we think about Jesus being mighty God, man, it's so much more than just, hey, God, I need a little extra push. I need a little extra strength to get through this difficult situation, right? I think it's more about reaching out and experiencing the presence of Jesus because he's mighty God, because that's the only thing that's gonna work, right? Like maybe the bar of life is just weighed down with some stuff, right? It can be anything. I don't know what it is for you. But there's those situations in life where it's like, man, you're looking at that bar and there's so much weight. It's the weight of maybe marriage and the way things are going right now with marriage or health issues or the things that are going on with the kids. And it's just like, man, you don't need somebody to spot you. Like, you need mighty God to walk through the door, right? Like, God, I'm reaching out to experience your might because I can't do this. I don't need just a little extra oomph. Like, I need you to walk through that door and go, hey, get up. I got this. There's too much weight on here for you, and I've got this. That's what I'm talking about. And so how do we reach out and experience that? Is there even anything that we can do? Is there a way that we can maybe, on our part, reach out and maybe turn the mighty God factor up in our lives? And so what we're going to do today is we're going to actually look at some real-life stories of some people who found themselves in that place in life. They found themselves in life where it's like, man, life has just thrown some messy stuff at them, and there's just way too much weight on there, and there's no way. And they're desperately reaching out to experience the presence of mighty God in their lives, do what only mighty God can do. And what's interesting, and we'll see this, they don't always get exactly what they expect. But we'll see if we can walk through these stories and maybe learn a thing or two and see if we can apply these things to our lives. Before we dive in, though, I do want to kind of set the context a little bit so you kind of know what's going on. In fact, if you'll do your next step reading this week, I want to point that out to you. So here's the deal. Today's going to end like a really good Netflix series, okay? You're going to walk out and you're like, man, that was good, but it's over, right? I want more, right? And that's not me doing this. I'm just saying, right? Like, you're going to want more, and so I got you covered. And so what you'll do is if you'll do your next step reading, I've got the prequel, the two prequel episodes of what's happening right before all this. One of them involves Jesus doing something crazy in a storm. The other one involves Jesus doing some stuff with bacon. Like, you've got to check it out, okay? It's incredible. You got to check it out. So do that for me, okay? But here's the context and what you need to know for this morning. Jesus is in full swing of his ministry. He's doing some things, and he's got his disciples and his followers with him, and they're going around, and his teaching is just incredible. It's blowing people's minds. He's teaching in a way that they're like, man, I've never heard this stuff before. Let's get more, right? And he's going around and he's healing people left and right. Man, he's going to just getting right in the mess of life with people and people that are outcasts. Like, Jesus getting right up in there and helping people and healing people. And so, man, everywhere Jesus goes, people are just captivated and they're rushing out to meet him. Now, he's got his haters, right? He's got people that don't want nothing to do with him. But for the most part, man, people are captivated and they're rushing out every time they hear that Jesus is here. And what you'll see, and you'll see this in your next step reading, but Jesus and his disciples, they're going around and they're kind of like on this run, and Jesus is just like showing off, man. He's just doing one thing after another, these incredible mighty God moments. And so that's kind of what's going on. That's where we're going to pick up today. So Mark chapter 5 is where we're going to be. And Mark tells us that when Jesus had again crossed over by the boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue leaders named Jairus came, and when he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. That's weird. Why did he do that? Well, check this out. Verse 23, he pleaded earnestly with him, "My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live." And so Jesus gets off the boat. He's with the disciples. Man, whoosh, crowds rush out to meet him. And there's this man, Jairus, who's a synagogue leader. Basically what that is like he's like a high pastoral figure of the synagogue, of the church, right? He kind of oversees everything that goes on and gets the final authority and final word of what happens. Jairus is the guy, like Jairus would have been the guy that'd been like, no, the worship guides don't look right. Like, we need to redo those, right? And no, we're not going to let the youth pastor have the second week of the Christmas series. Like, that's a big deal. Don't do that, right? That's Jairus, okay? That's the guy Jairus would have been. But he's rushing out and falling at the feet of Jesus, begging Jesus, "Jesus, you got to come to the house. My daughter is dying." Now, it's really, man, just a powerful story. And I think the temptation sometimes that what we, naturally want to do is we want to jump to the mighty God moment, right? We want to jump and go, okay, well, what's Jesus going to do? What's going to happen? But I don't want us to miss what's happening right here. I want us to kind of sit here for a little bit and recognize what's happening in this moment, that Jairus is rushing out, falling at the feet of Jesus. And why is that so important? Jairus, being a synagogue leader, it's very likely that in that time he would have known a lot of the Pharisees, a lot of the people that didn't want anything to do with Jesus, that rebelled against Jesus. It's pretty possible and likely that Jairus would have known those guys, would have been in close with them, and it's very possible that they would have pressured Jairus, "Hey, if Jesus ever shows up, you have nothing to do with that man. You understand? Like, you don't acknowledge him, you don't support him in any way." And so I think for Jairus to rush out and fall at Jesus' feet is actually a pretty big deal. So I think Jairus is not only recognizing that's mighty God, but here's the thing. I think Jairus is also recognizing that here I am as a man of authority, and I've got a lot of control over things, yet in my life, there's a situation that I have absolutely no control over. You just got to know, man, Jairus is a dad. He's done everything he can to help his daughter, right? He's the synagogue leader. Man, he's exhausted all of his resources. He spent all he had, the best doctors, the best medications, and yet he finds himself, man, I'm a man of authority, and I have a lot of control over what happens on these areas, but yet here's my situation, and I've got no control over this. And he's rushing out, and I think not only is he rushing out and acknowledging Jesus' authority, but I think he's rushing out and releasing control and accepting Jesus' authority. You may want to write that down. That's number one if you want to follow along in your worship guide. Number one, man, we reach out, we accept Jesus' authority. And that's not always easy to do, right? We like to have control of the situation. We like to control things. And so I think this is why this is so important. I think sometimes the first step to reaching out and experiencing Jesus as mighty God in our lives may not even be a step at all, but to kneel and just like Jairus did, go to the feet of Jesus and go, here's the situation that I've been trying to control, and it's yours now. Because I can't do it. The weight's too much. There's nothing I can do. It's us reaching out and accepting the fact that, Jesus, you're mighty God, and I'm not. Jesus, you possess a power and a might and a strength and authority that I don't have. Here you go. And so, man, Jairus rushes out, accepts Jesus' authority, and begs Jesus, please come to the house. My daughter's dying. Please come to the house. Well, things are looking up. Check out what happens. Mark Chapter 5, verse 24. So Jesus went with him. Jesus agrees. And a large crowd followed and pressed around him. And so Jesus is like, oh, whoa, okay, yeah, let's go. And so a crowd gathers around, and they're all headed to Jairus' house. And can you imagine like Jairus' relief in that moment? Let's put ourselves in his shoes for a moment, man. You're in desperate need of a mighty God moment. It's out of your hands. You've got no control over the situation. And then you hear that Jesus has come to town. And you look out, but there's a crowd of people, right? There's a lot of hurts and hangups, and everybody's got issues, and they're all running out to meet Jesus. But Jairus says, this is my shot. That's mighty God. This is the only shot I got. He rushes out, and he falls at the feet of Jesus and actually gets close enough to have a conversation with him, pleads his case, so to speak. And then Jesus says, yeah, okay. Jairus rushes out. Jesus, you got to come to the house. You got to heal my daughter. You got to put hands on her. He's Pentecostal. Jesus, you need to come to the house and put hands on her. And Jesus is like, okay, let's go. Lead the way. And so, man, a crowd of people, they're all headed to Jairus' house. Now, here's where things get really interesting, because our two stories and our two characters, they're about to intersect. And so as the crowd's going to Jairus' house, crowd of people, check this out, verse 25. There's a woman there who'd been subject to bleeding for 12 years. And she suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors and spent all that she had. Yet instead of getting better, she grew worse. And when she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd and touched his cloak because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. So now we've got two people, both in desperate need of a mighty God moment. And what I love about this story is how completely different these people are, yet both find themselves at the feet of Jesus. I mean, you've got a man and a woman. You've got this man, we know his name. His name is Jairus. This woman, we don't even get her name. You've got Jairus, he's this well-respected synagogue leader. And then you've got this woman who, based on her disease, she's considered ceremonially unclean. She's not allowed to go anywhere near the synagogue. She's an outcast. Nobody wants nothing to do with her. You've got Jairus, man. Here's a man who, based on what he does for a living, his profession, he probably makes pretty decent money. And then you've got this woman who she spent all that she has. She's broke. And not only that, she's gotten worse, man. Both reaching out to experience the presence of mighty God in their body. Both reaching out. I accept your authority. I need you to do something that only you can do. So this woman fights through the crowd and reaches out, touches Jesus' robe, and check out what happens. Verse 29. Immediately, don't miss that, immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt in her body that she was freed from her suffering. 12 years of getting worse immediately. And at once, Jesus realized that power had gone out of him, and he turned around in the crowd, and he asked, who touched my clothes? And I love what the disciples do here, right? They're so they're so human. Watch this. They go, Jesus, you see the people crowding against you, his disciple answers, and yet you can ask, who touched me? In other words, the disciples are like, Jesus, we ain't got time for this. Like, we're on our way to Jairus' house, and like, Jesus, you're in a crowd full of people. Everybody's touching you, right? Let's go. Like, we ain't got time to waste, right? But Jesus, check this out. He says, no, this is different. He says, man, Jesus kept looking around to see who had done it. Then the woman, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell at Jesus' feet, trembling with fear, and told him the whole truth. Some translations say that this woman came to Jesus' feet and told Jesus her whole story. And Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. Wow. 12 years. The presence of mighty God, Jesus, changes everything for this woman. His presence in this woman's life gives her hope when her situation is absolutely hopeless. I think when we reach out to mighty God, that's what he does, man. When we reach out, the presence of mighty God does something, and what it does is when we reach out, it gives us the ability to be hopeful even when things are hopeless. That's number 2, if you want to continue to follow along. It gives us the ability to be hopeful when things are hopeless. Think about this with me. 12 years. 12 years. I tried to wrap my head around this, and just to kind of get an idea of the time frame there. The closest thing I could think of is I've got a 10-year-old son, and he's 10, and he's thinking by the time he's 12, he's going to get a cell phone, but he don't know, right? And so, but I'm like, this woman has been suffering longer than he's been alive. I can't even wrap my mind around 12 years of going, I'm sorry, man, we don't know what's going on. Well, let me go to this other doctor. Here's a little bit more money. Ma'am, I don't know. We've never seen this before. 12 years. And they're testing, and they're doing all these things, and it's just making it worse. And in a moment, everything changes. What changed? Jesus is mighty God, and his presence changed everything for this woman. I don't think it was necessarily that this woman all of a sudden had all this strength, and all of a sudden she got it all together. I think it was Jesus' presence that gave this woman hope. I think she's accepted the fact after 12 years, this is just my life. I'm just an outcast. I'm just always going to be this way. I'm just hopeless. But then the presence of Jesus, because he's mighty God and he has authority over illness, changes everything for this woman in a moment. I think sometimes reaching out to mighty God is about placing whatever hope we have, because it's not how much hope we have, but it's who we're putting it in. It's because you're mighty God and I'm not. So here's this hope. And he gives us hope when things are hopeless. Now don't forget about Jairus. Don't forget about Jairus. What's always interested me about this story is how irritated he must have been in this moment. Can you imagine, he's got a desperate, mighty God need. He rushes out. He's fighting through the crowd. Jesus, you got to come to the house. You got to put hands on my daughter. You got to heal her. And Jesus is like, yeah, okay, let's go. And they're fighting through the crowd. I mean, I imagine Jairus just excited, man. He's got Jesus on his route, man. They're going to the house, and he's moving people through the crowd and kicking kids out of the way. Jesus, you're still back there. Come on, come on. They're on their way to the house. Jesus, okay, come on. This way. It's right up here. Jesus, right? And then stops to turn around, and Jesus is not there. He's, whoa, what's he doing? And then you got Jesus in the middle of the crowd of people going, who touched me? Who touched me? Somebody, Jairus is like, are you kidding me? No. And then, remember, This woman tells Jesus her whole story. Men, you ever had a woman tell her your whole story, right? You ever had her tell you your whole story? Well, we'll just stop there. I don't want to. Let's bring it back a little bit, okay? He's mighty God. He listened to her whole story, man. Let's just take time right now. But man, that had to be frustrating. He's so close, and he's got to wait. This woman can't just get her miracle and go, right? The healing was immediate. It was immediate. But then she's got to tell Jesus her whole story. Man, he's got to sit there and watch and wait while he's on his way to his miracle while somebody else gets theirs. Man, it had to be frustrating. Things actually get worse. Verse 35. So as Jesus is talking to this woman and she's pouring out her whole story, check out what happens. Verse 35. Some messengers came from Jairus' house and they told him, your daughter has died. Jairus, buddy, listen, man, I don't know how to tell you this, but I know it was close, but she's gone. Why bother the teacher anymore? Man. Why bother, Jairus? It's impossible. Man, I know you were close, but why bother Jesus anymore? Number 3, to reaching out and experiencing the presence of mighty God, I think sometimes we got to ignore the idiots. We got to ignore, I know. You're like, Pastor Aaron, if that's even your real name. I'm just like, let me show you this before you get mad at me and send me mean emails to jim@thequestrc.com, okay? Hey, he's the overseer. He said, yeah, let's give the youth pastor the second week. So here you go. We got to ignore the idiots. This is biblical, okay? I'm about to show you this. This is biblical. What would Jesus do? Verse 36, Jesus paid no attention to what they said. He ignored them. And he looks at Jairus and he tells Jairus, hey, Jairus, ignore that. Don't be afraid. Only believe. Man, Jairus in a desperate need of mighty God, and he's so close. And then his friends come and go, hey, Jairus, man, listen, I'm sorry, but she's gone. It's over. And so Jairus has a decision to make, doesn't he? Well, you know what? He's got a choice. He can say, Jesus, look, man, thanks for trying, I guess, but it's too late. It's impossible. You did this thing with the woman, and that's all good and well, but it's over. Or he can ignore the idiots. He can ignore what the world is telling him. Hey, it's impossible. Don't worry about it. She's dead. It's impossible. There's no hope. Well, thankfully, Jairus decides to ignore the idiots, and they continue on to Jairus' house. So check this out, verse 38. So they arrived at Jairus' house, and when Jesus saw the confusion and heard all the loud crying and wailing, he went in and he said to them, why all the confusion? Why are you crying? This child is not dead. She's only sleeping. In other words, Jesus is saying, y'all don't know who I am, do you? You have no idea who you're in the presence of, do you? You think death can stop me? This is like sleep. This is child's play. You don't even know. Now, here's why I call these people idiots. Check out what these idiots do next. Verse 40, they laughed at him. You don't do that, right? I'm just saying. They laughed at him. And so, this is cool, man. So Jesus put them all out. The Greek there actually suggests that he physically removed these people. He put them out with notion of violence is what it said, right? Savage Jesus. I love that. He's mighty God, man. You don't mess with him, right? So he took the child's father and mother and his 3 disciples, and he went into the room where the child was lying, and he took her by the hand, and he said to her, you try it. I think I did it right. Somebody told me after first gathering, like, hey, you did that right. I'm like, you don't know. Talitha cum, right? That's pretty good, right? I got to do it again third gathering. This is the only time I'm saying it. But basically, here's what it says, right? This is what that means. Little girl, I tell you to get up. I love that, man. Let's think about it. Golly, let's think about it. Man, the creator of the universe, the King of kings, Lord of lords, God, who says, hey, mountains, you can go this tall and no further. Hey, waves, this is where you stop. Is in this room with this little girl, and he says, hey, sweetheart, hey, it's time to get up. That gets me. And so he took her by the hand. He tells her little girl, get up. Verse 42, she got up at once and started walking around. She was 12 years old. And when this happened, they were completely amazed, but Jesus gave them strict orders. Don't tell anyone. He said, first, give that baby girl some Chick-fil-A. Right? That's what, that's not, this girl came back from the dead. You go get her Chick-fil-A, right? Don't do anything. You go to Chick-fil-A first, and you get the big size, right? Get her the 12-piece, right? Man, obviously, Jesus' might raising this girl from the dead is just truly mighty, and it's truly incredible, and it changes everything for this little girl. But I want us to kind of focus in on Jairus and how he experienced the presence of mighty God. And what did he have to do to experience this? He had to ignore the idiots. He had to ignore what the world was going, hey, don't even bother. Are you crazy? She's dead. It's done. He had to ignore what the world was telling him is impossible. He had to ignore the idiots. I think the moment we reach out to experience the presence of mighty God in our lives and we're on our way and things are looking good, distractions are going to come up, aren't they? And the world is going to say, what are you doing? You're putting your faith in what? You're doing what? That's crazy. The moment we reach out, man, the world and all these things are going to jump in. Maybe even idiot friends, right? You may have some idiot friends you need to call right after this. I don't know. But like the people are going to jump in and they go, you're doing what? You sold out for Jesus? No. And they're going to tell you it's impossible. Can you imagine? Think about this. Jairus, dad, man, if he had given up hope, he would have gone home to a funeral. But instead, he went home and he had dinner with his little girl. He went home and had dinner with his little girl. I don't think it's actually what Jairus expected. We can't miss that this morning, okay? I don't think that's necessarily what Jairus originally wanted or expected. But Jesus is mighty God for a reason. And I think sometimes if Jesus always met our expectations, he'd never have an opportunity to exceed them. Because Jairus wanted a healing, right? Come to the house and heal her. Jesus, being mighty God, says, I'm going to give you something better than a healing. I'm going to give you a resurrection because I'm mighty God and I can do that. This woman, what did she want? She wanted to reach out. I don't even need to talk to him. I ain't got time for that. This has been going on for 12 years. He's walking by. I'm just going to reach out, touch him, get my healing, and I'm out. That's all she wanted. That's all she needed, right? No, Jesus met her needs, and he says, you know what? Listen, nobody will look at you. Nobody will talk to you. For 12 years, nobody will give you the time of the day. I see your physical need. I'm going to meet that, but I'm also going to sit here, and I'm going to listen as you tell me everything because you're my daughter, and I love you, and I'm mighty God. And if I always met your expectations, I never had an opportunity to exceed them. And you might be thinking right now, Aaron, that's all really cool, and those are great stories, right? That's really cool, but Jesus isn't going to get off a boat and come walking through my neighborhood, right? I'm not going to look out the window and be able to rush out and fight through the crowd and meet Jesus. And you know what? You're right. I get that. But you don't have to. This is what's so amazing about all this and about God with us. And Pastor Jim unpacked this so well last week, but the beauty that God loves you so much that he would make reaching out to him more accessible than ever. Because the moment we put our faith in Jesus Christ for our salvation, I can't earn it. I can't get there on my own. Jesus, you paid it all. You did it on the cross. You defeated death. The moment we accept Jesus Christ for our salvation, his spirit comes to live inside of us. And we don't have to fight through all the mess. He's right here, and we can reach out to him in ways that nobody else could. In fact, the disciples, man, when Jesus was like, hey, I'm going to do this whole death thing and I'm going to be resurrected, they started freaking out. They're like, you're going to do what? We've been doing all this and now you're going to do this? And Jesus is like, listen, it's going to be better for you that I do this. Because instead of having to make an appointment with me, I'm going to live inside of you and you can have access to me anytime. God, man, he loves us so much that he would do that. And you know, I don't know what your situation is this morning or if you can relate to these stories or not. I really don't know. But I think the thing that's worth mentioning is that we actually have a lot in common with these two stories. Just like Jairus and this woman were actually very, very connected. As they both found themselves at the feet of Jesus, we have a lot in common with these people. And the thing that we have in common is that just like them, we have this huge problem. This huge problem that can't be fixed by anything we do. It requires mighty God. It's this problem called sin. Paul writes in Romans 3:23, he says, for everyone has sinned. I've sinned. That little girl that Jesus rose from the dead sinned. The crowd of people sinned. Jairus has sinned. You have sinned. I have sinned. Everyone has sinned. We all fall short of God's glorious standard. See, just like the people in these stories, our problem needed mighty God. It was impossible to fix by man's abilities, but thankfully we have a mighty God who does mighty impossible things. See, there's good news to this. Verse 24, yet God in his grace freely makes us right in his sight, freely. And he did this through Christ Jesus when he freed us from the penalty of our sins. For God presented, it's a gift, man, here you go. God presented Jesus as the sacrifice for sin. I know you got a problem and you can't fix it on your own. And so here you go. And people are made right with God when they believe that Jesus sacrificed his life, shedding his blood. Man, y'all may want to play something soft right now. Like, that's just good, right? Play something soft. It's good. And maybe accepting the gift of Jesus today is your first step to experiencing the presence of mighty God. Maybe today is the day that you would say, you know what, I believe today that God would look down on me and go, man, I'd give anything for them to know how much I love them. And then he gave everything. Maybe today you would accept the fact that Jesus is mighty over everything and whatever you're going through. And today you would accept right now, before you walk out of those doors, that Jesus is mighty to save.